There's a common misconception around yoga that says that yoga is all about being calm. All yogis are very calm, walk around, don't get angry. I don't think that's the case because I might appear to be calm, but many times I'm really not. There's a lot going on in my brain. I've been to a lot of yoga classes where it's been so intense. I've been sweating profusely, and I've gotten to that point where I feel like I can't anymore. It's definitely not very calm. So maybe I thought what I'd do is break down a typical yoga class will involve a few different states. So when you first start the class, we start with a centering pose, a pose where you become connected to your body, to your breath again. You become connected to your mat that you'll be working on for the class. You become grounded so that you, in a mindful state, to complete the yoga class. And then we start warming up our muscles and our joints, and then we get to a very intense part of the class. It's usually the standing poses where you have to put in a bit of effort, and each class will be different. Sometimes you have to put in a lot more effort than normal. And then you cool down and you do Shavasana, which is the rest pose. So yoga is set up in that way so that when we leave the yoga class or we leave the mat, we can take that knowledge or that flow we've just learned and use that same setup in our everyday life where we become grounded every now and again. We prepare ourselves for an intense period, a stressful period. We live through the stressful period, then we do a cool down or we start calming ourselves down, and then we rest. And that is very similar to our nervous system in a very crude kind of way, because our nervous system basically composes of two different systems. There's the sympathetic nervous system state, and then the parasympathetic nervous system. And one isn't better than the other. We move through both of them at different times during the day, different periods within our lives, within the year. And that's perfectly fine. We don't always have to be in this calm state. So parasympathetic nervous state, that is linked to rest and digest, and your sympathetic nervous state is linked to stressful periods, and it's usually called the fight or flight kind of state. Now, there's something also called polyvagal theory. So polyvagal theory, I guess, provides a framework for a lot of people to understand how our emotional responses are linked to our nervous system. And there are three different nervous system states in polyvagal theory. There's the ventral, dorsal, I'm getting it all confused. The ventral vagus state, there's the sympathetic state, and the dorsal vagal state. So the ventral vagal state is the state you want to be most of the time, where you're calm, you feel safe, you feel connected, you feel social connection with other people. The sympathetic nervous state is when you're in fight or flight. So there's a stressful period, or there's some sort of maybe dangerous, what your body observes to be dangerous event that's happening, and your body responds in the appropriate way to keep you safe, to get you through that stressful period, to keep you alive. And that is the fight or flight response, which I think most of us are very familiar with. And then you have the dorsal vagal state, which is your shutdown response or your freeze response, more or less. So if your fight or flight response lasts too long or for a very long period, that will set off the dorsal vagal state. And then when the very stressful period moves on, the thinking or the theory is that you'll come back to the ventral vagal state again. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people nowadays, because of our dopamine addicted society, our hyperactivity, a lot of us get stuck in either sympathetic state or dorsal vagal state, and very few of us actually can remember or know how to get back to the ventral vagal state. So yoga's been very helpful for me to get to that point. And the more research I've done on it, because of the polyvagal theory that I've also learned, it's to do with the vagus nerve. There are two that run down the side of your body, and they send messages from your body to your mind. So the problem is, if someone is stuck in a dorsal vagal state, it's a body response to a perceived threat or danger. And if you're talking to them to try and get them out of that state, if you're shouting at them to get out of it because it doesn't make sense and logically it doesn't make sense, it's going to have no effect on them, because it's a body response and because their mind is not connected to their body. So in yoga, the practice of yoga resets the vagus nerve, in a sense, I suppose. It reconnects the mind with the body. That is the aim of yoga. That actually is the aim. It's not about being calm, or it's not about just vinyasa, being sweaty. It is actually about linking or joining the mind with the body and the spirit. And there, in yoga, there's quite a few different ways we can do that. And obviously, this idea of mindfulness is definitely what helps. So mindfulness and awareness, or self-awareness, is so important. And there's a sixth sense we have called interoception that has been discovered in research to be extremely important. And we do that so often in yoga. So interoception is knowing what's happening in your body, being aware of the different things that's happening in your body. So if you get angry, knowing that your shoulders might hunch up, or you'll have this little furrow in your forehead, or that your heart starts beating faster, or you start fuming. So you're aware of that. Whereas if you are stuck in a certain state, you are not aware of that. And there are many practices where we strengthen that sense of interoception. We strengthen the link from the body to the mind and from the mind to the body. So we almost reactivate the vagus nerve to do the job it's supposed to do, to keep us, in a sense, balanced. Although the balance is a weird idea, because we go through these peaks and ebbs, and we're always moving, and that's perfectly fine. We don't have to be these calm people, zombies walking around. We are actually humans, and we have lots of emotions, lots of baggage that we have to deal with. But if we can learn to connect the mind with the body once more, we can not react, but learn to respond better to whatever's happening around us. We can make decisions from a place of relative wisdom, in a sense, and not a decision based on past experiences or all the shame, the baggage that we're dragging along with us that actually impact our subconscious decisions. We can learn to be more self-aware and less reactive. And that's why I'm so passionate in doing this work. Because imagine if we all were in a place where we were less reactive, less stuck in a state of fight or flight or freeze. What a beautiful place this would be. That we'd have really good, healthy relationships. We'd be able to communicate really well with ourselves and with everyone else. There'd be compassion. There would be consideration. But we don't learn these techniques at school. I had to learn it very late in life, and I really regret not learning it when I was at school, because imagine the possibilities of what I could have done with my life. So, my message, I suppose, is if you feel stuck, if you feel that your sense of self is stuck in this image, know that you can change it. There are ways to change. You don't have to stay that way. You don't have to stay with your mind telling you this is what it is, this is how it's supposed to be, and this is how it happens. You can change.